Hi, Jedi. You can join now. I already sent you an invite.
Mhm.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, how
Nice
are
to
you?
finally have you here. I'm all right. I'm okay. So this is the first time we are seeing each other.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to find the right angle
Yeah, sure,
that
sure,
won't
sure.
get me tired. I don't know how to do it like this.
No, I think
Maybe
the
the
first,
first
yeah,
one is
this is better.
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Okay, so I think we are ready to get started. No test run. You got a
Oh
hand in the
my
job.
God.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm
Thank
going
you for having
to,
me.
yes. So we are going straight into the session. Like you're ready for my questions. Hello, everyone. My name is Bidemi, and this is Podbricks Africa. You know what Podbricks Africa is about. We will be reaching out. We are reaching out to amazing talent initiatives, organizations, to get their backstory, get a few tips and tricks, understand, their journey so far, which is what we'll be doing with Sound Africa today. And yeah, that's pretty much what Podbricks Africa is about. So this is an IG Live event that you can tune into twice a month. You can also find our previous episodes on our YouTube channel. You can follow us on LinkedIn and you can find those episodes there as well. So thank you so much for joining us. And our guest today is, please let me know if I'm pronouncing your name right, Jedi.
It's actually Jedi, but a lot of
Jedi.
people call me Jedi as well.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
Jedi.
So
It's
it's Jedi.
Jedidiah. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So let's get to know you. You began your career as a radio and television reporter at the South African Broadcasting Corporation. Tell us, how was it like? Oh, are you
I
still
think
there?
no, not anymore, but it was exciting for me because it had been like a childhood dream, to work for the SABC back in the day. And so I was literally living my dream, going out there every day, collecting stories and putting them together and broadcasting them to audiences across South Africa. So for me, I was having the time of my life.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Okay, and you started in 2001. Oh my God.
I
And
know.
you,
Do
from
not
what I'm
reveal
seeing
my
here,
age.
no, 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 don't worry. From what I'm seeing here, you've worked in different capacities, you've worked in different
Yeah,
roles, right?
yes.
And you enjoyed every bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think different roles. I think perhaps the most challenging role has been being a freelance journalist, like trying to sort of establish myself as a freelance journalist in the African continent. I
Mm.
tried that like in 2012, I think 2011. I left South Africa trying to do just that, I think I made like two trips to Senegal, West Africa, trying to establish myself. And it was really, really difficult. I figured too late that I needed more money than I had. I needed more connections that I had. Like there was just so much prep work that needed to go to really
Oh,
make a living from being a freelancer. But it was an incredible learning experience, and I found out things that I would not have known, if I just stuck behind the desk at the SABC.
it sounds to me like you had quite an adventure.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about Sound
Yeah.
Africa podcast. Yeah, you've been featured in, I believe you're representing Sound Africa here. So Sound
Yeah.
Africa has been featured on commercial, public, and community radio stations in South Africa, as well as BBC Radio 4 in the UK. You've partnered with a
Mm.
number of organizations and media, education, civil society, and so on. Amongst them are the Daily Maverick, the Mail and Guardian, Kaya FM, Cape Talk, Africa is a Country, so many collaborations I can see there. This is amazing. And this
Mm,
is why this interview is very important because
mm-hmm,
our audience are about to get a glimpse of what it means to take podcasting to the next level. You guys really took it to the next
mm-hmm.
level. And I want to know what made you start Sound Africa, what inspired it in the first place.
Yeah. So let me just give you a bit of history. So I joined Sound Africa in 2020 as their editor in chief. The organization was created back in 2015 by a group of radio journalists, some European and some South African ones who really wanted to create a space for immersive radio journalism or storytelling in South Africa because that space was shrinking, say, on public radio stations. So they wanted to do this to have this sort of to create the cinematic experience for people who enjoy listening to stories via radio. And at that time, podcasting was not so famous or popular in South Africa. So it really
Mm-hmm.
gave them a niche and then sort of like they were sort of like the one of the first trailblazers of podcasting in South Africa because they came with that mindset of trying to create something that was totally different from the mainstream for people who just love listening to radio stories and producing current affairs in a way that is not rushed, and just like headline lines where you just get into the story and get to experience the different characters, the different contexts of what created that like headline news story that you've seen. So yeah, that was the motivation, and that's what the initial founders sought to do. And when I came in 2020, my mandate was just to spread the word, at least expand what they were able to do within the South African context and do it in an Pan African context. So, partner with podcast producers or journalists in African countries to then create more podcasts like the ones we have produced before.
So if I understand you the journey started like a radio platform, then
Yeah.
evolved to podcast.
No, so it's kind of like it's radio journalists, people who are working in the radio medium, then
Okay.
translating that into digital. So basically, what a podcast is literally like an audio file um,
Mm-hmm.
that is transmitted via the RSS feed. So it could be
Mm-hmm.
anything. It could be interviews, it could be song, it could be music. So these journalists had been working in public radio where, they had big budgets to do documentary storytelling in radio format. So they brought that onto the digital online space. And then from then it became a podcast. That's what it's
Oh,
called really. So yeah, so there it's not necessarily that it started there, but just like talk shows right now, you find you have a talk show on radio and you have a talk show and a podcast. In fact, most podcasts are talk shows of
yeah.
have two people talking and chatting. So they did, I could say, something similar with radio storytelling or radio journalism and put it on the online platform and gave it more room and more space for the stories to breathe, like conducting investigations and such like that, like character building, like really building a story up instead of just doing it fast.
Awesome. That sounds great. So are you open to partnerships with individual podcasters in Africa?
Yeah, for sure. Like we are definitely doing that. We like in 2020, I told you one of the things that we did was we started producing a weekly podcast called COVID in Africa, in which we partnered with journalists from different African countries, sharing with us their experience of what's going on in terms of the COVID lockdown restrictions, how people were reacting, so we
Mm-hmm.
were they were like our stringers. So we were able to work with at least like close to 10 freelance radio journalists on the continent who contributed stories in that program through interviews or actually going out and producing feature stories. Right now, we've and the follow the our most recent podcast, I guess, is Think African. We also did pretty much the same. We partnered with radio journalists across the continent who helped us with the interviews that we did with the newsmakers that we featured in there. So we are definitely open to having even longer term partnerships with journalists. Right now, we are currently sort of building relations with community radio stations and are working with Ruben FM, which is a community radio station in Mukururu informal settlement, and they are playing some of our content and we are paying them in a way. So it's a partnership that gets our content out there onto the radio format. So it's kind of like now it's the opposite. It's podcasting going onto radio as opposed to radio going onto the podcasting space. Yeah.
Awesome. A quick question, just so when people hear that they can partner with Sound Africa, they are also aware of certain things. Like,
Yeah.
are you looking at journalists only or podcasters generally? If one were to partner with you,
Well, I think the best way to put it is storytellers. So
storytelling.
it does, yeah. So if you're a person who loves a story and has a passion for the story that you want to tell, and you can convince us, and we can together find the money to put it together, then we're willing to do it. So there is no we don't have any firm criteria about who we want, but you have to be sure that you want to do it and be passionate about the idea. And podcasting is not as simple as it seems, at least not the way that we do podcasts. And even if you
Mhm.
just do a simple one, you still need to be prepared to do the work, to do the research, to do everything. So we're willing to work with somebody who's also kind of ready, who just needs support in one way or the other to just get the story out there. I guess what's most important is the story. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go back to the partnership thing maybe after the show, so I can clearly, I can ask more questions. But just so we don't stay on this particular, do you think, because from our discussion right now, we've
Yeah.
talked about radio, we've talked about podcasting, and you
Yeah.
guys have sort of married podcasting and radio. So, do
Yeah.
you think um, one of these can ever go extinct? Because right now, everybody wants to own a podcast or they want to run a podcast because they think it's easy, okay? It can be a one-man show if you want it. So do you
Yeah.
think that, yeah, radio is going extinct and then paving the way for podcasts to take over?
Well, not in the African continent and not anytime soon. I mean, because we live our lives in this digital world as like upper to middle class Africans does not mean that the rest of the people have it. So, statistics are like only 22% of Africans have access to the internet. So there will
Mm-hmm.
always be room for, for radio, to communicate. And also, the digital world is powered by electricity, and the situation in
Yeah.
Africa when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to that. So, no, please hold on. It's not going to happen, not anytime soon. I think the future would really be a hybrid, a combination of both, where you have more people or people creating sort of podcasts or audio files in a way that fits each and every situation. But in the
Mm-hmm.
African continent, it's going to take a while for us to get there, to get to a point where we don't need to have radio transmitters. It's going to be a while.
I know. So, like I said, you guys are taking podcasting on the whole level. You don't do podcasts the way the normal African does it. So,
Mm.
what do you think will be the best way to monetize a podcast if you were a podcaster? What
Okay.
strategy would you put in place to monetize it?
Okay, I think I'd like us to think of it in this way. You have the private sector in the world and you have the private sector, So depending on which side you fall. So if you're an NGO, you're public, you're putting together talk shows and programs of public interest, So if
Hmm.
you're on that scale, then you would want to apply for funding through various philanthropic organizations that are out there and grants. Africa No Filter is one new player that's come into play in the past 2 years, and they are often offering funding to young African creators. You can be a podcaster, a writer, an artist, whatever. So there are ways that you can raise money to tell that important story that you want. And then if you are in a private sector, that means you're podcasting to make money. There are, four ways that you can do that. The first one is to advertise the similar way that you would advertise on
Hmm.
any other place. So you charge people for the time, and you can get two forms of advertising. One of them could be, um, you know, the product. The people that want to advertise could give you a tape with their ad that you can play at various points in your podcast, or they could give you like these live reads where you kind of read off a script selling their product. That's one way, just basic straight up advertising. The second one could be affiliate marketing, which is kind of like how when you've seen something great and you tell your friend about it, and you be like, go and buy those shoes, or you better listen to that podcast. So in the podcasting world, you can actually make money by doing that. So there are various ways of doing. So you just where the client will pay you per the number of people that bought a product, or or use their services who listens to your podcast. So you could say, go and buy this special at KFC and add my name at the back, or Jedi Ramalapa podcast. And then when you go there and buy, and then they'll pay you a portion of that sale. Yeah, it can get very complicated, but basically that's what
It
it is.
can.
You just get paid for referring people to their product that they want to sell. And then a third way could be for you to sell your own products on your podcast. And a lot of people are doing that on YouTube, TikTok, everywhere. So you have a podcast where you are either selling clothes, merchandise, whatever it is that you want to sell, you can use your podcast as a platform to sell it. So if you have a business, then you use your podcast to promote your business or whatever service that you are selling. And the fourth way is to produce podcasts for other people. So you would need to, know how to, edit. Most of the time, I think that's what people need a lot of help with, like sound editing, graphics, transcribing, translations. There's a lot of work that you can do within the podcasting ecosystem. So those are basically the four main ways that you can make money, but you have to find one that suits you and your needs.
Thank you so much. You've said
Sorry,
a lot of
I
things
think I've given
already.
too much information.
No, I think it's perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Cool.
My next question is, what would you advise anyone who wants to be a podcaster? Like, what is the first thing you tell them to do? Like, do this first before you do.
Well, I'd like them to think just because it's simple, that it doesn't mean it's easy, So really think through what you want to do and why you want to start that podcast, because
Mm,
it's highly competitive. If everyone has a podcast, you really have to either have a clearly defined target audience or really have something to say that would make people,
want to
be
listen?
interested, watch or listen. Everybody's talking and no one's listening. And so I think, yeah, just think through what you want to do. And there are lots of um, free services, tips, even software that you can use to start a podcast. You really don't need to have these fancy things. You really need to start with the basics, start with what you have, your own
Mm-hmm.
cell phone,
Yeah.
basic lighting. Like me, I haven't bought anything extra to be on this IG live. So really start with what you have and think about what it is that you want to do. Why do you need a podcast? And is a podcast the best way to communicate with your audience? Maybe it's not. Just because we can talk doesn't mean that we're good talkers. Some people are
Yeah,
boring
yeah.
presenters, some are exciting. So really think about your skill sets and why you want to do it. And from there, then it's easy. Then that will be the motivating factor that will help you to, put in the time and the work that it needs to produce a good podcast. Yeah.
I agree. I agree with the fact that you said, why do you want to start a podcast? In fact, in
Mm.
our latest resource, Podcasting for Beginners, because we just launched it recently, that was the first thing we talked about. Why do you want to do this? Because that will determine um, your continuity when you start feeling the strain of podcasting.
Yeah.
When you're feeling like you're fading, sort of. The
I know.
reason you started is what will keep you going, right? At the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's like being in a relationship and things are getting tough. You just have to remember why you fell in love with that person, and then okay, this is it, and I gotta
Yeah.
keep going. So
Breathe.
thank you so much. I want to ask something else, but where do you see the African podcast industry? I'm seeing it like an industry, right? Where do you see the African podcast industry in, say, 10 years? Are we taking over the world? Are we creating better suited platforms to give our voice value and the attention it deserves? You know, is that going to have happen? Where do you see the African industry in terms of podcasting, say, in 10 years? What do you think will happen? Give us a picture. Paint us something.
Oh my God, Demi, I don't even know what's going to happen next month.
No, no.
What about the next 10 years in podcasting? I mean, so much is happening in the digital sphere that is hard to predict. But I just think that it's, a lot of these major social media companies and agencies are investing a lot in voice recognition technologies and all of that. So I think even with Google algorithms, in time, you would need to have a voice-based product on your website somewhere in
Mm,
the future in order for you to have the type of rankings that are necessary. So
mm,
voice is a new thing. Audio is like the new frontier, I guess, in space in there. So I think that maybe when it comes to podcasting, in Africa, I think we definitely need to have something similar to Netflix, where we could actually curate our own sort of audio stories and have a
mm,
space where Africans can go. I think that would be the future where we really are consolidating. I think now we're busy in this phase of creating. And I think now the next sort of stage would be to consolidate our creations and create like a continental archive
mm.
that could showcase some of the best or not so best, but like, the stories and the content that are coming out of the continent. Yeah.
That's a big idea. That's a multi-million dollar idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever gets it first is going to be very rich.
Well, anyway, I look forward to that happening. I'm not sure. Okay, we need to talk about you now. You wrote a memoir. So writer to
Oh my
favorite.
God.
Let's talk about you. You covered trauma and journalism. Were you trying to show the world that there's a nexus between trauma and journalism? I don't. I've not read the memoir. Maybe I'll do that after now. But can you give us a picture of, you know, what you were trying
Yeah.
to pass across in that publication?
Oof, I don't know. I think how to describe it is, um, first of all, thank you for talking about my book. You know, it feels great. I have a book out, so thank you for bringing it up. But you know, it was almost an accidental book, I would say, because I started writing it in 2011, when I was in Senegal on my own, trying to do this like freelancing or you know, figuring out my life. And I started to have these really intense panic attacks, really that felt like I'm going to die. I'm alone in this like island, and I really started to freak out. And
Oh,
as I was like, you know, freaking out, I realized that I was having, what do they call it? A panic attack, really, like an extended panic attack. And so beforehand, you know, I would ask someone, a friend, to be with me and help me or whatever. But at that point, I was alone in a foreign country where nobody knew my name and I couldn't even speak the language properly. So I had to find a way of kind of centering myself. And it was through the act of writing. I was like, okay, if I'm going to die in this minute, I need to kind of tell somebody how I ended up there. So I started to kind of figure out like how is it that I'm here and doing this. And that journey of writing, through writing through writing to keep myself from having a panic attack, I then discovered that I was suffering from or having symptoms, very strong symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And that was connected to my work because, you know, I'd gone to, in 2006, I went to Beirut, Lebanon to cover the war between Israel and Hezbollah and also, you know, covered other conflicts. But that particular
oh,
one was, you know, it was really, it changed my life, I guess, let me just say. Like being there and reporting on that story changed my life, the way that I think, it changed my belief systems, it changed everything. And I didn't realize how much of an impact it had on me until sort of much later on in 2012, as I'm writing, discovering that this was the issue. So the book came as a result of that, but then I proceeded to work on it and publish it because I felt that, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder is like a condition that is really not paid too much attention to within journalism in on the African continent, and we actually are the ones who are, you know, often confronted with really violent,
yeah,
wars, murders, all of these, human rights violations happen on this continent. And we live here, we're born here. And so it becomes sort of violence is normalized. And even when we are having these negative reactions, as a result of it, it's kind of like it's normal. You know, that's how journalists are. You know, some of them they just drink too much, or you know, they have short tempers or something. Like those little things sometimes that we're not aware that they are actually, some of them are a result of of trauma and the trauma that we experience from witnessing and reporting on the violence and, you know, the events that happen in society in general. So
I
those
can
two things
imagine.
are linked. Yeah. So
Wow.
in the book, I try to take the reader through that experience, I
So we've talked about the sweet part of your passion when you were leaving the time of your life, and then
guess.
this part isn't so sweet, and a lot of people need to know about it. Where can we
Yeah.
get this memoir if someone need to get a copy? Is it on Amazon?
Okay. Yes, definitely. It's available on Amazon,
Okay,
Google Books, and Kindle. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
sharing your story. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
I don't
Jamie,
think,
for having me.
yes, I don't think I have any more questions. I'm done. I'm done trying to know everything about Sound Africa and you. And like I
uh,
said, we are going to discuss, what partnerships truly mean. So, I
yeah.
can inform, our community, the members of APVA, for example, that, okay, here is an organization, an initiative that works with African talent, and you guys can go, you know, try to see if the partnership can work. So I'll definitely meet with you on that. But
Mm.
I don't think there's anything else. I'm going through my notes right now to be sure that I've asked everything I want to ask. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for, going through our mail when we reached out to you, saying yes to appearing on Podfix Africa, even when you've not done an IG Live event before, right? So this is the first
No,
IG Live
no,
event,
it's my first time.
and I'm super
You're
honored,
never too old to learn something new.
right? So now you can have fun. Just go out there, go live, say something, talk about your book, and all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, yes, I'm looking forward
Okay.
to IG Live event from you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And thank you to
Awesome.
everyone that's joined.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. All right, guys. So there we have it. Public Africa with Jerry, the editor of Sound Africa. So you guys should go check out Sound Africa and how they work with African talent and see if you can, partner with them. Right. So I believe that this is where I say goodbye to you all. Watch out for our next episode. I can't wait to tell you guys who we'll be bringing up next. Bye.